what Salesforce does in terms of promoting equality, and equally the part that all of us as employees play in that. And this is something which I'm really proud about. And I must say, I'm about a year and a half in Salesforce. And this was one of the reasons that attracted me to join Salesforce, which is the kind of impact that each of us as employees are able to make within the community. So let me start off with explaining what is the vision for Ability Force. So Ability Force, obviously, I think the name says it all. It is about making sure that employees, as well as a wider communities with visible as well as invisible levels of abilities, are all treated and empowered in the same way, so that they're able to really drive the best outcomes. They're able to deliver the best results every day. And that is what we are here for, to make that possible. And most importantly, it is really important for us that we not only do this confined within our own groups and within our own companies, but that we reach out to other companies, we reach out to other organizations and partner, so that we can develop this across the wider communities. So this is my leadership team. So we are a team of almost 300 people across UK who are part of the Ability Force, but this is just my leadership team. As I mentioned, I'm the president of Ability Force in UK. And I also wanted to share some of the key things that we do. I'm not going to take much time, but will really give you a bit of a flavor of some of the events that really motivate us and inspire us. I'm going to start from the right, because that's the most exciting part. If any of you are connected with me on LinkedIn, feel free to do so. I am K Mukherjee, Salesforce. You should be able to see that. Last week, and this is my latest post, so you should come up top of my profile. Last week, we did our Champion Month event, and we had a host of inspirational speakers. We had John from Scope. We had Laura from Story, which is from sort of supporting the different levels of abilities across Salesforce ecosystem. We also had one of our partners who helps us with educational training, to show how training, when it is made and specifically designed for all ranges of abilities, including neurodivergent, that's when we get the best results. And some of the stories that we heard that day were so inspiring that I literally had goosebumps, which is like, this is what we can do if we set our minds to it, and if we really come together to promote the cause. I would request all of you to, again, think of how each of us would do this in all our daily lives. We also invited guide dogs, literally on these hallowed grounds. We had beautiful 4 of them around. They are there in the pictures. Two of them had enough of posing. They decided to look away, but the other 2 are still, yeah, they're like, enough, Kay, enough. Okay, so they were so good. So we had about 1.5 hours where the volunteers came in and they shared about the absolutely life-changing work that guide dogs do, in the way they can actually lead life in so much better way because the guide dogs are there to help them. It was really, really amazing to be able to do, to be able to support that. And it's also, by the way, interestingly, October was also the guide dogs birthday month. I mean, not the guide dogs themselves, the Guide Dog as an association. It was formed in 1931. So again, a bit of a shout out to everyone who would love to support, please do that. And then the other things that we do in terms of, obviously, people, we are aligned together in getting all of us, making sure that we are promoting the 3 things. One is awareness, second is inclusion, and third is action. All 3 are important, because if you're aware, but if we don't take any action in order to make it easier for all of us of all abilities, then it's actually not much use. So what you can see over 2, okay, obviously there are chairs in the middle, but never mind, I'll just read it out to you. Neurodiversity in the workplace, disability smart labs, accessibility consultation program. So We run all of these within our Salesforce ecosystem, because this is, again, to empower our employees. We have accessible tools. We have coaching. We have coaching not for only employees with different levels of abilities, but also their managers, because it's equally important that the managers are aware of how to really get the best out of all our employees. And that's how we drive this as across the team, across the entire Salesforce. And I'm really, really so proud to be able to support that. So welcome, all of you. I think that was it. So this was, like, exactly as I mentioned, the key principles: awareness to build understanding, inclusion. So the first step of action is inclusion. That goes to all of us. Equipped to empower. What can we do? A little, I mean, sometimes I have had the feedback from employees, a simple thing like a standing desk makes a lot of difference, because it helps in some of the mobility areas. Everyone has something to give, and every sector has something to teach. This is more of making sure we are not operating in an insulated way. We are also taking in the best practices from across the group. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Zoe. Okay.
We're going to have an intro from female product leaders. Thank you. But we're happy to come. We can come. Yeah. Oh, I'm operating the clicker. Do you want me to do the clicker? Yeah. Good morning, everybody. The mic is definitely working. I'm hearing myself. So yes, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to see you all. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the Female Product Lead. So we are a community that is run by volunteers. What we aim to do is to create a really authentic, inclusive environment where there's psychological safety. We aim to empower all underrepresented voices, whether you're just, different genders, different neurotypes, different backgrounds and stories. We hope that whatever your career aspirations are, we can help support that. We are currently over 600 members on a Slack group. This is the lovely leadership team. Like I said, we're entirely volunteer-led, and everybody gives up their time to help run this lovely community. Down there, I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can see some of the companies that we're affiliated with. We tend to run about one in-person event per month, and we run a couple of virtual ones a month. We have some lovely events coming up next week. One is Thriving as a Product Leader with Young Children. Another is Psychological Safety That Actually Works. So our mission is to create a more inclusive world where everybody feels empowered to lead and to be in the room where really important decisions are being made. We hope that will affect the environment and also the tech that is being produced. So this is a really big mission. And like I said, this is run by volunteers, and we also need your help, really. Can we go back to the previous one? I wanted to mention a really important event we've got coming up in December. Can we get a little bit of a woo for some festive cheer? Woo. Yeah, thank you. That was a really good woo. On the 9th of December, we're going to have a really fun sort of fundraiser. Really fun, it is. There'll be a sleigh and all sorts. And why do we do this? We are actually, from maybe in just about a week's time, we're going to have a fundraiser. So I think I didn't say at the start, I'm at Monia, and I'm responsible for growth and partnerships. So we really rely on our partnerships to help grow our mission and achieve our vision. So we'll be raising some money and donations for those that want to help with our mission. And the reason we do this is we take all donations and we put it back into running events for people that come along to our events and are empowered in our mission with their careers, etc. So you might be receiving emails from me. If you want to get more involved in Female Product Lead, want to go join the Slack group, there's a QR code there. Please do subscribe to the Luma. Or alternatively, come up and have a conversation after, one of us, anybody. But yeah, there is... the Season for Change, which is our fundraising sort of month leading up to our event on the 9th of December. So Now I'd like to introduce you to the moderator, Marissa, who's going to be facilitating this lovely conversation on neurodivergence in product leadership. So there is Marissa. And I want to get this right because Marissa is fantastic and the perfect person to lead this conversation. Marissa is a strategist, advisor, speaker, and best-selling author. Ooh. She is the founder of diversely.com. She is a thought leader in inclusive intelligence. And she's from well-known names like Swift, Barclays, Reuters, lastminute.com, to high-growth startups and accelerators. Marissa has spoken on international stages, led teams, launched marketing leading products, and developed complex programs. Yes, please, I think at the end we're going to have the QR code for Diversely and Amplify. Please do attend some of the events if you are interested. She draws on 20 years of experience helping teams be forward-thinking and evolve beyond outdated ways of working, putting people and purpose at the heart to get better results. Please join me with a warm welcome for Marissa.
Amazing. I can't help but cringe when I listen to that. But thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I'm not going to spend too long talking about Amplify and Diversely because I want to get on with today's discussion. But if you want to get your phones out, for those of you online and in the room today, take a snap of this QR code. You will be presented with an array of links. So you'll be able to connect with me on LinkedIn. Great start. You will be able to access Amplify, which is a community of individuals and organizations who are championing together to create more inclusive innovation. So there are chairs in the way, there are people in the way, it's fine, no problem at all. We're essentially a community who want to see inclusive innovation become the norm, not the niche. And I'm very pleased to say that Female Product Lead are one of our founding partners, and we want more people to be involved. So if you care about inclusive innovation, take a photo, which you all have done. You'll also learn about the Inclusive Innovation Playbook, which is a resource that's packed with strategies. We created it in collaboration with Booking.com, with Hitachi, and Shelter and other organizations and experts from around the world. And you'll also be able to find out more about Diversely. So I won't share too much, but if your organization is looking to develop your leaders, your strategies, and your cultures to become more inclusive, to ultimately unlock potential, then get in touch. But my job today, before I introduce you to the panel, so we've got Toni, we've got Caroline, we've got Saielle, and we've got Meg. Before I introduce you to them in more detail, my job is to set the stage, to set the scene for today's discussion. So I'd like to start with a question. Who here likes Star Wars? Quite a few hands going up. I can't see what the people online are doing, but if you are online, please vote because you'll be able to see each other, even though I can't see you. And we appreciate you being here as well. I know sometimes people who are online can feel left out at these kinds of events, but you are very, very welcome to be here. It's quite a controversial way to start an event, but I don't like Star Wars. Let me share a story to explain where that stems from. Many years ago, when I was a kid, I should probably say many, many, many years ago when I was a kid, if I'm going to be truthful, I was in the cinema and I was about to watch my first ever Star Wars film. And then it began and I was excited. And then there were really fast scrolling words flashing up the screen and I had no idea what was going on. And I just started this film in this state of total confusion. And I looked around me and I thought, was this the intended experience? And everyone else seemed to be completely calm and they knew exactly what was going on. My relationship with Star Wars hasn't really recovered from that moment. But it turns out that me and fast scrolling words don't get on very well because when I went to university, later on, I discovered that I have dyslexia. Now, who here can spell dyslexia? Anyone? A couple of people. Now, is it just not the cruelest word for a condition that describes people who struggle to spell? Anyway, that's just my observation. Now, I don't talk about my dyslexia often in public spaces, but I do so today with intention. I'm well aware of the judgments, the assumptions, the biases. Certainly earlier on in my career, all I wanted to do, I felt this need to prove myself over and over and over again. Can anyone else relate to this feeling, this need to, a lot of hands are going up, to prove yourself? And I didn't want to disclose anything that would make me stand out. Why would I want to give anyone a reason to doubt me? Now, it wasn't just my dyslexia that I chose not to share. It was anything that made me stand out. My goal was fitting in, not being different. Now, can anyone relate to this feeling of wanting to fit in? Yeah, again, that's something that's very common, such as the life, I guess, of a woman in tech. Now, I thought that the meritocracy would help me to succeed. It turns out I was wrong. And it turns out that actually you need to advocate for yourselves. It's one of the greatest skills you need in business, especially if you come from an underserved, supported background or underestimated background. Now, when I was at university, it wasn't just my dyslexia that I didn't share. When I was at university, I got the highest results in my year and a prize for academic excellence for my master's degree in mathematics. So, well done me. I've just about got used to being able to share it now, but for years I didn't share this because I didn't want to share anything that made me stand out. But now I realize that advocating for yourself is fundamental. So for each of you here today, especially those of you who are early on in your careers, I really encourage you to sort of lean into getting comfortable talking about yourselves and your achievements. Now, when it comes to neurodiversity, for some people, coming out about their neurodiversity is a choice. For others, it's not. For others, it's either they don't know, they haven't got a diagnosis, or the impact is so significant that they need to get support. And the thing that it's really important to know is that everyone's experience is different. And I certainly don't speak on behalf of anyone else with dyslexia. I certainly don't see it as a weakness, and I don't feel that I need to be fixed. I now use my difference as a strength, and through Diversely, we work with organizations and we help them to embrace difference as a strength as well. And I really see the impact in the work that we do. The product teams, the leadership teams, the tech teams that we work with to embed inclusion, they emerge stronger, they emerge more connected, they have greater clarity and confidence in the work that they're doing, and they build better products, they have better outcomes. Diversity brings difference and different perspectives and innovative ways of doing things. I now don't feel like I need to fit in or I'm trying to prove myself, and quite frankly, the freedom, the liberation of authenticity, it's liberating, I can tell you. It's exhausting trying to be someone that you're not. Now, I believe that we need to reset, normalize neurodiversity, and we need to reset the thinkings about weaknesses and limitation. I know that my story can help others, and I choose to share it openly. It's been quite a journey as a dyslexic introvert becoming a keynote speaker, but the most important thing to note is that I choose to share it. It's my choice. It's my choice. And if there's one word I want you to take away from today's session, it's choice. The choice to share what you want to share. The choice to work in ways that suit you. The choice to access products and services and information in a way that suits you. To cater for diversity, we need choice. It's absolutely fundamental. Now, remember that overwhelming Star Wars intro that I mentioned earlier. Every single one of you in this room here today has the power to slow down those words. The equivalent in the workplace might be sending an agenda before a meeting or changing your user experience so that it's simplified, for example. There are people in your networks and your customer base who are neurodivergent who will never tell you that they are neurodivergent, but would absolutely benefit from neuro-inclusive practices. When you change the way you see people, you have the opportunity to change their experience of the world. It's incredibly powerful, and each and every one of you has that power. So I hope I have set the scene. I'm excited to introduce you to the panel. And at the risk of being judged, either for having dyslexia or for not liking Star Wars, I hope I've provoked your thinking, and we're ready and excited to get started. So thank you so much for listening. Now, as you listen, I encourage you to listen with curiosity, to lean in and try and suspend your judgments, but importantly, to take action. Imagine the ripple effect if everyone here doesn't just listen in, but takes action. So who here came today to learn to create more inclusive products or more inclusive cultures? Absolutely, a room full of people. And the panel are here to learn as well. We're all learning, we're all wanting to take action together. So now that I have provoked your thinking, I am going to introduce you to this wonderful panel. Now, my notes here, they're just a ruse. They've been absolutely no use to me whatsoever because I can't read fast enough to keep up with them. However, to introduce the panel, I am going to read from them because I do not want to do these ladies a disservice. So I speak from the heart, but now I'm going to show you my reading skills. Okay, so first up, we have Toni. Toni Horn is a leading neurodiversity consultant. She's a speaker and trainer and the founder of NeuroEmpower, a social enterprise helping organizations build genuinely inclusive cultures. She was diagnosed with dyslexia at 17 and later with ADHD and autism. Toni co-authored Blueprint from Start to Success, the essential guide to a thriving employee resource group. Toni is big on delivering high-impact sessions with actionable frameworks and translating lived experience into impactful change, a lady after my own heart. Her voice is one we are incredibly pleased to have on the panel today. Next up, we have Caroline. Not in the order on my notes. She was diagnosed as autistic at 40 while serving as a head of product, a discovery that reshaped how she understood leadership, her career in tech, and indeed herself. After experiencing autistic burnout in 2023, she founded her own company to support leaders in a space and tech through leadership and performance coaching and development. She understands the rich complexity of neurodivergence and champions the value of different ways of thinking in building more inclusive leadership. Next up on the previous page, we have Saielle. Saielle is an AI product leader and a consultant and senior head of product at Sainsbury's. She's over 15 years experience transforming technical challenges into customer-loved products. She has guided AI and cloud initiatives at global scale, from AT&T's network virtualization to Pivotal's cloud platforms, and now AI at Sainsbury's, one of the UK's largest retailers. She's also a keynote speaker and board member for a service delivery charity and has been open about her autism and ADHD diagnosis. Saielle bridges the gap between enterprise AI ambition and practical delivery, sustainable and responsible practices, and importantly, ensuring technology serves diverse thinking patterns and user needs. I have no doubt she will be bringing some brilliant insights to our discussion here today. And last but not least, the visionary behind today's session, the founder of Unfold AI, the co-founder of the Female Product Lead, and a fractional Chief Product Officer, we have Meg Porter. Meg and I have been plotting this session for some time now, and it's absolutely amazing to see Meg sitting on the stage ready to share her insights with you rather than holding everything together behind the scenes. Meg has got so much to share with you, and I'm really excited to talk to all of these ladies today. So I'd like to start by inviting everyone on the panel to share their experience of neurodiversity so that you can get a sense of you've heard their bios, but let's get to know the real people. So we'll go in order. So let's start with Toni. Toni, tell us about your experience with neurodiversity.
Firstly, thank you for having me here today. What a lovely building. I'm in awe of the building. So I don't get into town that much, so it's nice to come into London and go somewhere that's quite nice. I'm Toni Horn, and I wear very many neurodivergent badges, as you heard from the bio. And I think my story actually starts from when I was 7. And the reason for that, I think at the age of 7 is when you start to notice you're different. It's when you start to notice that everyone within your class is doing things differently to you, or you're not as academically as good as other people within your class. And I, throughout from my education, I always felt different and felt small, like I didn't belong. And I didn't like education whatsoever. If you could get me out of that classroom, I could get out there quicker than anybody else. I was actually labelled by one of the deputy heads as a hypochondriac. like Tony's a hypochondriac, because I always had a tummy ache. I always didn't feel well. And the reason is because I didn't want to be there. It was an excuse to escape. So rather than trying to find out the under reason why I didn't want to be at school, they labelled me instead. Dyslexia wasn't a thing when I was younger, so it was kind of a myth. I was a lazy learner. I was lazy. I didn't want to do the things that I wanted to do. So I didn't get diagnosed until I was 17. And the only reason for that is because I went to college to do performing arts, hence probably helps me be a keynote speaker. And it was my lecturer said, I've taken a look at your, when you're on stage, you're brilliant, but your written work, I kind of recognise that you might be dyslexic. And it's the first time anybody had ever said that to me. And it's purely because he was dyslexic himself. He spotted it and they put me through the process. I've always felt that I wasn't good enough in certain situations. And my background is finance. I come from a very, very large corporate finance organisation. And I worked there for 17 years. And somebody approached me and said, we think you'd be really good as a customer advisor in this large organisation. And I was 20 at the time. And I was like, I can't do anything like that. I've not got the grades. I'd be rubbish. The bank's not going to want me. And actually, because I was recommended, the interview process was completely different. I didn't have to do competencies. I didn't have to do an interview. I had to actually have a customer scenario and react what I would do in that situation with that customer, which allowed me to use my problem solving skills, allowed me to use my mirroring, because as a neurodivergent individual, I'm really good at mirroring other people in front of me. And it actually created me to be a really good salesperson. And once I got my foot in the door, I was like, I need to prove myself. And they gave me the job on the spot after I did that interview. And I was like, wow, I'm going to go work in the big smoke. I'm going to work in the big city. I'm 20. I didn't think this would ever happen. And I was there for 17 years. But for 15 years of being there, I never disclosed my dyslexia, because of the stigma, because I actually would hear it all the time. Have you seen that email from so-and-so? I'm going to call him Graham. Have you seen that email from Graham? Have you seen his spelling mistakes? How on earth has he got into position of where he's at? Not taking into account that he's really good with people. He's really empathetic. He's a great leader. People go to him for problem solving, but was instantly judged on a spelling mistake in an email. So I hid it. It wasn't until I came across a flyer at 1CP that said, dyslexia support group in this room, coffee and tea provided. And I was like, do I, don't I go? So I went, and there was 30 other people in this room and 2 people in there I knew. And neither of us had knew that we were dyslexic. And I was like, I asked you to proofread one of my emails once, didn't I? He was like, yes, you did. And do you know what? I just guessed, said it was fine. So it probably went out wrong. And we had a little laugh about it. But it was the first time I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. I was with my crew. I felt like I was part of something. And it initiated a light in me was, I need to tell my team. I was a leader at the time. I want to tell my team. And I came out to my team, and lo and behold, 3 of my members of my staff came forward and said, this is who I am. And it opened up that conversation. And actually, as a leader, showing a little bit of vulnerability about myself, allowed my team to trust me with their own self. And I think that's really important as well. And then I went down a rabbit hole of trying to find out more. My autistic self that I didn't know, went completely researched, did masters, did degrees, PG certs and everything, neuro-inclusive, neurodivergence, discovered I was autistic, got diagnosed at 70.
It's fire alarm time. Do what you need to do to make it okay for you.
Please take no action.
Fine, we will be resuming the service shortly.
So age of 40, diagnosed autistic, and then ADHD because I was on the...
Let's go.
Literally a little bit left. So ADHD, 5 months ago, because on the lovely NHS waiting list. And it's been an absolute revolution. So joining that dyslexia support group, then becoming the co-chair of the Neurodiversity Employer Resource Group for 3 years, my last 3 years at this organisation, led me to do what I do today. So I founded NeuroEmpower because I wanted the people who I was sharing those times with, who lacked understanding, just thrived for people to just, give them the space to be who they are and the support that they needed. Is one of the reasons why I came in to do this. I've been keynote speaking now for about 3 years, and it was the best decision I ever made, was to leave the corporate world and do what I do.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Toni. Caroline, tell us about your experience of neurodiversity.
Sure. And I wanted to pick up on the Star Wars, because I'm not a fan of Star Wars. I'm a Star Trek fan. Ooh. And there's characters on Star Trek who are coded autistic. So 7 of 9 from Voyager, Data from The Next Generation. And it was really funny because growing up, I saw myself in them, even though I didn't know at the time. So I was diagnosed as autistic literally the day after my 40th birthday. Report came in from the psychologist.
Happy birthday, you.
Exactly. Happy birthday, me. And it helped me make a lot of sense of different experiences that I had had in life. So the reason why I went for diagnosis later on was actually prompted by watching the documentary that had Christine McGuinness in it. Getting some nods, people have seen that. And she was actually on a journey herself with her own children, getting them diagnosed for autism. And through that process, realised that she herself had signs of it and went through diagnosis herself. And me watching her, so it's a bit of like diagnosis inception there. I was like, yeah, okay, I think I've reached a point where I need to know. I need to know because I've always felt different growing up. I was bullied as a child as well. Not so much at primary school, but when I got to secondary school, there were very much like the popular kids, the not popular kids, and I was in that latter group. And what's funny is later in life, I've spoken to people I was at school with in that group, and we're all neurodivergent. We've all had those diagnoses. So I think we have a habit of like finding our people, and it's because we feel safe. People understand us. So certainly looking back now, I realise, yes, like the difficulty I had there was because I am autistic. And when that report came through and I was reading it really kicked off a process of grief. Going through a grieving process of looking back at those missed opportunities to address it, to identify it earlier. I went to school, I really struggled with school. I struggled with homework, with the discipline to sit down and do it. Even though I count myself as intelligent, later on I've gone and got a degree. I went to university in my 20s and dropped out because I just was really struggling with the independence, with studying on my own, with managing my money, honestly. So it made me sad that there were a number of struggles that I had where had had I known I was autistic at that time, could things have gone differently? Could I have got that degree in my early 20s? Would my career have panned out differently? And I don't regret anything in my career. I think I've had really good success in my career in spite of that, or possibly even because of it. Because being autistic has given me so many strengths that I leverage every day in tech. You know, the ability to sit down with engineers and get into the technical details and understand that and think about it in a systems perspective. All of that has enormously helped me in my career. So I think that I'm going to leave it there, and we'll cover some.
There's a lot to think about there. Thank you so much for sharing. Saielle, would you like to share your experience with us?
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm Saielle. Most of my differences are really obvious these days. I'm trans. My hair and fashion sense normally attract a lot of attention, and they project a confidence that I've had to work towards. Growing up autistic and ADHD was really, really difficult, specifically because of the ways that society doesn't really make room for those things, you know. And my lived experience of those things has been very feminine coded in terms of how my lived experience has gone, because I didn't have like loud, disruptive ADHD. I had insular, quiet, bookish ADHD. And then, you know, teachers would always say, she's really smart, but she just doesn't live up to her potential. I used to cut class to go to the library and read things that I was interested in instead of like, I don't know, I think it was a math class or something, or a history class where I just like got bored. And my parents are immigrants from Brazil, and they moved to the US, and I apparently hadn't had enough of immigration, so moved here 8 years ago. And I've been here ever since. I think the lived experience of like ADHD, autism, and some of the other things that I deal with day to day are louder now, and I'm definitely like integrating them and much more proud of who I am. But that was a journey, and it's my hope that each and every one of you in the audience and like listening at home or from your work desk or wherever you might be today, find something today that helps you feel that you can connect with yourself and make space for the fullness of who you are, because it does make you stronger, and it makes you better when you can love the parts of yourself that you didn't know you needed to.
What an amazing snippet there for people who are neurodiverse and people who aren't, right? Getting to love yourself is how you can live a happy life. So Meg, tell us about your experience.
So beautiful, all these stories. I'm connecting with so much of them. I'm sorry, I'm going to look down a little bit because I want to be concise as an ADHD person. This is a problem that I have. For those that know me, that's probably funny. So kind of like some of these lovely people, I think for decades I sort of felt like I wasn't enough. That was the main feeling that I had. That kind of was the experience that was common in every aspect of my life, in school and at work. I was told I was too slow, even when my work was high quality, and I was too much, or I talked too much, or too loud. And I learned to sort of force productivity and creativity by using adrenaline and you know, cortisol spikes, basically. And I self-sabotaged a lot in order to please other people. At 38, so very similar story to Caroline, I had a really bad burnout. I was head of product as well at the time, and I got re-diagnosed with ADHD here in the UK. And since then, and even before that, through a lot of therapy and internal work, I've realized, I think one most important thing, which maybe if there's one thing you take away from me, is that I am not actually broken. I'm okay, just how I am. And it's the systems around me that are broken and that weren't supporting me as I needed to be supported. And so what I did was I sort of turned around and started trying to give to my team, like build my team how I wished that teams were for me, and giving support to the members of my team in the way that I wished I was supported, and showing up more curious and vulnerable, and not trying to be the high-performing product leader all the time, with all the right answers. And kind of like Toni, like it really helped my team to connect with each other, and it was great. And I now really embrace the idea that what makes us different is what makes us great. So what makes me great as a product leader is the things that are different about me. I'm a designer and a product leader. My ADHD thrives in chaos and loves chaos. And so being in startups is great for me. And I love working at early stage. And I don't really have all the right answers, like what the perfect neuro-inclusive product leadership looks like. But I think of all the places that like great products for neurodivergent people, like tech should be one of the places where products are coming out all the time, because there's so many neurodivergent people working in tech and product. But it's not happening. And I believe that the reason is because we're all still just trying to be the same. We're all just trying to be something that's the same. Same teams, same definition of what good product leadership looks like. And it plays out in the products we build. And that's why I'm building Unfold, which is an app for neurodivergent people to process daily overwhelm and define what productivity looks like for them. And I'm really excited to talk a little bit about it.
I am very excited to hear more about it. Thank you all so much. Isn't this a special moment to hear, just to hear these stories? And I just want to thank you all for sharing so honestly. And I acknowledge there's an emotional toll that comes with doing that. So, thank you all so much. We're going to shift the tone a little bit. That was thought-provoking, but we're going to have a quick fire round. And I want to invite each of the panelists to share one fact about neurodiversity or a neurodivergent condition with all of you. As you're all my new agents of change, you need some ammunition to go and start conversations and get people excited for change. So let's go.
So
what can you tell us?
I don't know if anybody knows this, but I think it's really interesting that actually 40% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic. Self-made millionaires.
Very interesting.
Mine.
There's hope for me yet.
And me.
And me.
So boys are 3 times more likely to be diagnosed as autistic than girls. It is massively understudied in girls, and it represents or manifests differently in girls. So things like hyperlexia, which is the ability to read at a very, very young age. Yep. That is one sign. Special interest being animals, not trains, planes, automobiles, as it is in boys. Disney, great. And masking, because girls are socially conditioned to be more social, and so we mask more and we appear as neurotypical.
Very interesting.
One of the things that has been a talking point in the news and misrepresented in the news headlines is the co-occurrence between being trans and being neurodivergent. And a lot of people are trying to gatekeep access to gender-affirming care because they say that we're not capable of making informed decisions about our gender and our bodies as neurodivergent people. This is the entire thread of talking points for books like Irreparable Harm, where they say that trans people, specifically trans masculine people, are not equipped to understand their bodies or understand their gender, and it's infantilizing and it's wrong. The lived experience answer to that is that autistic people are more likely to just chuck social norms out and say, "Fuck it, I'm myself and I'm going to live my best life and I'm going to learn how to like make the world work for me." And that's probably why there's a stronger correlation. But unless we have people really sticking up for that and sticking up for bodily autonomy, those statistics can easily be misrepresented.
Thank you so much. Meg, what have you got for us?
I think that my fact is just very related to me. Just that perimenopause specifically unmasks neurodivergence. And it's important for women to know this, that it's not like that all of a sudden all of these 40-year-old women are like having autism and ADHD like pop up. Actually, no, they've just been that their whole life, and all of the scaffolding that they've created to survive as a neurodivergent person in this world and mask, like we were just talking about, they go kind of out the window when their hormones change and perimenopause symptoms set in. All of a sudden, their symptoms and challenges become untenable, and all of that scaffolding falls apart.
Wow. An opportunity and a challenge all at the same time. I really want to get us to talk about products because we're product people, and quite often conversations about neurodiversity start with the people and we never get to the products. But I think it is important to talk about our experiences in the workplace. And there's a lot of talk about psychological safety and bringing your full and authentic self to work. But I'm interested to explore what does that really look like when you are someone who is neurodivergent? Has anyone got any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think that the decision to disclose is always yours. I know that there are companies that are supportive and encouraging, but I think whether you feel safe enough is always the primary consideration. And the psychological safety, I think it's a bit of a buzzword, but what do we mean? It's about being able to be yourself and be accepted by other people. And that's the best side of you. It's also the side where you struggle. So I'm sitting up here today and I'm talking to you, but there is struggle behind the scenes that you don't see. And it's easy, I think, for companies and teams to focus on what is visible rather than what is invisible. And to just add on psychological safety as well, if we are looking to create that environment where we can be ourselves, I think we also have to be open that there will be conflict, but it can be healthy conflict, right? Because if we're all saying like, I'm here, I'm different, this is me, then we have to accept that we're not all going to see the world the same and we're not all going to agree. And actually healthy conflict takes time to work through, and it takes holding space and having space for those conversations. So
thank you so much. If I had the power, I'd show you an image of a duck that looked all calm at the top, but underneath the water there was lots of flapping. Meg, you wanted to add something?
I have something that I wanted to share about this, because I think that like we hear, be your authentic self at work, or be us, being psychologically safe, be vulnerable so you can be psychologically safe as a leader. And I think as a neurodivergent person, those things are a little bit triggering for me to hear, actually, because as an ADHD person, I tend to overshare. And I readily share very vulnerable parts of myself quite easily, and maybe not always super carefully. And that's definitely been used against me, both in my personal life and at work throughout my career. And that's really painful. And I actually don't have the right answer for that. I don't know what the, solution is. And it's not really my job by myself to figure that out as the vulnerable person, right? And psychological safety is often weaponized. I see it weaponized constantly inside of product and tech teams as a way to shut people up, because it's really hard, actually, to hold space, like Caroline's talking about. And a lot of leaders have used psychological safety as a way to make people be quiet so that their strategy goes through. And yeah, I think it's just really hard. Being your authentic self means that you can stop pretending and, you know, like finally accept who you are and like show it to other people. And that's really what psychological safety would feel like to me, and has felt like in, you know, the few teams that I've really experienced that. That's what it's felt like. I can totally show up as myself and know that even the worst parts of myself are okay. They're okay.
It's so interesting to hear. And I think, Meg, when you talked about, you know, it's not on me to figure this out, I think that's such an important piece. You know, it's on all of us. It's on organizations. And I want to shift the conversation now to be starting to think about what can we do? What can we do as allies? How can we take action? And I know this was something, Toni, that you really wanted to talk about. So tell us, inspire us. What can we all do?
I would say the first thing to be an ally is stop trying to spot the neurodivergent people. Stop trying to spot us, right? Because everybody is different. And actually, being an ally is being inclusive to everybody. It's being inclusive to every mind. And I think it's lead with curiosity, not criticism. Because, you know, I always give an example of, I always think sometimes my dyslexia, my brain's a bit like a Microsoft 95. It hasn't quite caught up to the 365 yet. And the little whirling thing is going. So someone will ask me a question. And I always give my husband as an example, because if I use it at work, people are polite, but I know they're thinking it. But Dave will ask me a question and I won't answer straight away because my brain's trying to process the question and I'm trying to pull the answer. And he'll say to me, "Why are you ignoring me?" I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying to think about the response of how I want to respond, because I need to respond to this carefully. And actually in the workplace, it betrays as people thinking, well, why isn't she responding to me? You know, is she just a little bit slow? And actually there's this unconscious biasness of what we think is going on with that other person. And I think that, to me, being an ally is about being curious, not being, critical, and actually just give people time. Give them time. And, you know, clear communication, it helps everybody. You know, if you sent me a PDF with 24 pages on it, I'm telling you, I'm not reading it. But if you sent me that PDF and said, "Toni, this page is really relevant to you," absolutely. And all it does is, all you have to do is explain it and just simplify it for me, and I'm away.
Amazing. Thank you. Saielle, did you want to add something onto that?
I think when it comes to being a good ally, absolutely stop trying to spotlight difference and focus on a standard that works for most people most of the time. You're not going to get it perfect, but I find that a lot of people who are concerned with the question of allyship are focused on their ability to feel good about what they've done rather than the ecosystem, environment, or system that they've created to make sure that everyone feels able to participate. So focus on the system and the behaviors of that system, whether it's culture or communication or personal interactions with people. Focus on that over your ally cred, if you will. Is probably the first thing. And then when it comes to things like psychological safety, pick a behavior or a thing that you want to see change. What would psychological safety look like in your team? Well, it doesn't mean full soul-bearing disclosure, that puts people in really vulnerable situations. But it can look like we are 30% more productive at conflict and getting things that we could have talked about sooner on the table, right? That's a product goal that you can set for your team in terms of culture and ways of working that can actually make a material difference. And how do you measure 30%? I don't know. But if things go through either faster or slower because you're improving quality of discussion, right? That can be a way that you measure the cultural impact of your team. And I think it's really important to have measures of success that are grounded in real behavior change, not just can we feel good about our allyship? Can we put a rainbow lanyard on it or put a sunflower lanyard on it and feel really good that we did something we can like give ourselves a good job sticker for, versus like really challenge ourselves to change a behavior in a sustainable way, because changing behavior is hard, but it's worthwhile. And that's the challenge that we have to face into.
I love that. Don't try and be a hero. Do something good, and that will make you feel good. Do something authentically good and feel good about it.
Actions.
Exactly. Love it. I love it. Now, product people, it's time to talk about products. I think I want us to move on from workplaces and individual experiences to think about products. And to think about products, let's start by exploring our use of products. What does it feel like to use a product as someone with a neurodivergent condition? So let me invite maybe Caroline to share your experiences of that.
So actually, I'm going to talk about the recruitment process.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I recently went through a series of interviews for an interim product director role with a very well-known company in the non-profit sector. And it's actually my first interview since diagnosis, because other roles have come through my network. So this felt like, oh, this is a new lens on this kind of experience. And of course, there's many people out there looking for roles at the moment, and people also hiring for roles. So my experience of this right at the outset was apply. The talent person reached out to me and wanted to set up a call with the hiring manager. And that first call, they'd obviously done a lot of work on trying to de-bias their process. And it was going to be a telephone call, so no visuals. And I don't do telephone calls. If someone phones me, I ignore it, listen to the voicemail, and then maybe message them back. That's just how I am. Video calls, absolutely fine, because I need that non-verbal communication to understand what's the other person's emotional state, what's their energy, and then to be able to match that. And in an interview, it's high pressure, right? Like, you're trying to make a positive first impression. So I wrote back to the talent person who was managing the process and said, I would prefer this to be a video call. I didn't say the reason why. They had said in their email before, like, let us know if you need reasonable accommodation. So immediately came back and said, no, we're not doing this unless it is a reasonable accommodation request. So at that point, I'm thinking, I'm going to have to disclose, aren't I? I felt kind of backed into a corner. I'd tried the softly approach, and that hadn't worked. So then my next message was probably a bit blunt. And that's part of being, like, my autism is very, very direct communication, especially when I'm a bit frustrated with a situation. So I was like, I'm autistic. And they accommodated that. They did the video interview, and it was fine. I didn't end up getting the job for other reasons, but it just made me feel like, oh, I have to disclose this up front at a time when I perhaps wouldn't want to. I'd want them to get to know me without needing to know that information, because I'm very aware that although we do a lot of awareness and we talk about it and it has massively improved from before, there is still that stigma. And as part of my own journey, I think I'm possibly still dealing with some internalized ableism as well, and how I feel about myself being autistic. So that's something, I think there was good intentions with trying to de-bias that process, but it had created another barrier in a different way for somebody else. So I think that's just worth thinking about, those trade-offs that we try to make, similar to what you're saying there about standardize for as many as you can, but obviously there are going to be edge cases with that.
So interesting. And society kind of cultivates us all. We all get our perceptions from society. So it's so interesting hearing your thoughts on that point. Toni, did you want to add something?
No, product specific. Do you know what? My dyslexia sometimes verbally just really annoying. I would say if you are design, one of the things that really get me as an ADHD dyslexic is that when you go onto a website and there's these pop-ups, stop with the pop-ups because I get distracted and I don't know where I'm going, and then I have to try and click out of it, and then I can't click out of it, and then I minimize it, and then do you know what? I come off the website and you've lost me as a customer, because I find it so frustrating. And if anybody's tried to use the government website to kind of do anything, it's click here, through here, go to this link, to go to that. No, I can't do it. And actually, the most, I would say, if I could give a really good recommendation of a product that I've used, I find really helpful, is Headspace, because you can actually do what you want to. You design your own way of using it. You design how to use it. You design what you want to do with it. And actually, I find if you could copy anything, that kind of format is really good for neurodivergent individuals.
That's so interesting. I mean, the government website has been designed with accessibility in mind, yet we're hearing that it's not working. And it comes back to what I was talking about earlier about choice, and that's how you cater for difference. So interesting. So let's shift the lens again and not think about the users of the products, but think about what product people can be doing. How can we be creating better products and services that work for more people? Saielle, do you want to kick us off on this one?
Yeah, sure. I think there's a few things that product leaders of any level can do to like build more inclusive products. I think the first thing is really understand your audience, whoever that is, right? Understand your customer, your user, whoever they are. And that means like actual conversations, real interviews, qualitative feedback. Just watch people use stuff. Some of the best insights that I've had as a product leader and designer with a background in user research is just watching people use stuff and just shadowing people, because you see so much that's not verbal, and you can see those frustrations. Because if you ask somebody about their experience, they will tell you a summary, right? They'll give you 10% of the insight, versus like when you watch somebody use something, you know, you can ask someone, oh, how was that? And they'll say, oh, that was not bad. And then you like actually watch them use it, and they're frustrated, they're angry, they don't know what to do. They go back and forth a few times, you know, and even if it's like easy to them in the interview after the fact, like there was still frustrations in the moment. I think one of the other things that we can do as product leaders is you can tie accessibility back to business goals, and you can tie like audience growth or ease of maintenance or ease of use to like time on task. And you can tie that time on task to throughput, and you can tie that to things like compute volumes if you really need to, if your organization is very exacting. But most folks don't need that level. It's really just like, you know, make sure that you're tying your accessibility. Like if you put accessibility as a goal in your product, most companies probably won't go for that. But if you say, hey, one of our goals is to grow market share, and we think that there's some really good ways of doing that by increasing the amount of people that this product supports in these ways, like, you know, it kind of goes back to the whole like psychological safety is a bit of a buzzword. Like accessibility is a bit of a buzzword. Most companies just want to comply with the bare minimum. So it's on us as product leaders to be really strategic about the ways that we convert accessibility outcomes into business friendly goals, and like holding that line of translation between the two.
Absolutely. It's got to be about business impact. Then you get people listening.
Yeah,
Meg, tell us more.
If I can add to this, because I think I'm thinking about this very specifically with Unfold, and I think, you know, what I've learned thinking about inclusive innovation is like two very buzzword, right? Inclusive innovation. Like, what does it actually mean in practice? But what I've learned thinking about designing and building products for, like, whether it's trauma survivors or neurodivergent people, how you build matters as much as what you build. And for Unfold, because it's my company, I get to build the whole business inclusively. I get to think about it from the front to the back, like every bit. So I'm thinking about it with team structure. I mean, right now it's just me and my co-founder really as permanent staff, but all of the fractionals that we work with are neurodivergent. And they have chosen to work as fractional consultants because it works better for their mental health. And as an example in user research, I'm actually designing all of the product inquiry, the contextual inquiry and depth interviews that I'm running with flexible scripts, with extra time baked in, with different options for how they want to do the interview. They can have camera off, they can have no video, they can have a text interview, they can have time to be quiet, they can opt out of any part of the interview and any question, and they can go on tangents because they've got extra time baked in. And it means that I'm having like the most magical discussions with all of these neurodivergent people and learning so much from them. And I'm feel really excited that I'm actually like building the product with them. They are designing it as design partners with us. And you know, this point about accessibility, you can't just slap accessibility onto an extractive product that doesn't actually serve your users. So it even should affect, you know, your release cadence and how you think about your product development life cycle. Like, you're not going to be out to just hit a milestone to get investment, right? We want to release when we know that we're going to deliver real value for the people we're actually trying to impact, and only then. And if it means we go a little bit slower, then so be it, because that's the right thing to do. And so I'm just really excited, not because that's ethical, but because I actually think it will be the sweet sauce to the business. It will mean that the product we build actually fits the needs of those users.
Just to give you one bit of advice, so we done this. When we done the employee resource group, we were all neurodivergent. So we would come up with brilliant ideas, we'd have loads of discussions, and not one of us wrote it down. Right, and then some of it would happen and not all of it would happen. So we actually brought in a neurotypical project manager to manage and actually come and sit and listen to the team calls. So then he took the information down and then put it out for us. So I'll just say you might need one neuro.
It's the power of diversity.
I love it. Diversity, exactly.
I was just going to build on that and say, as a hiring manager and leader, I often build teams for difference. So I know that I'm a really good starter, but not as good at follow through. Yeah. So I tend to hire folks who have that like follow through, right? And hiring, if you're in a position to hire differently from yourself. If you're in a position to lead a team, make sure that that team is really thinking about personality styles and like differences in ways of working, and bringing, you know, what you want at the end of the day is like a couple things that, I don't know, I say they Voltron up, right? Like the different factors kind of build a bigger thing that's bigger than the sum of its parts. And so absolutely that, like, it's okay to have a token neurotypical.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. I think in addition, I would just say that, and I hope they're listening if they're on this event, but a couple of the fractionals I'm working with, specifically, I hired them because I know myself well enough that I know what I lack now. I actually know what support I need, and I'm embracing it, and I am inviting people to help me because of that, and I am hiring them specifically because they will fill in gaps in a way that I could never do on my own. It's really exciting.
I mean, there's something for all of us to think about. You know, no matter who we are, we've all got gaps and opportunities, and filling those in is how to thrive by Meg. We're soon going to be opening up for questions from all of you. I'm not exactly sure technically how this is going to work, but I think there is there it is in the corner.
Slido, but actually, let's switch to the Slido. I don't know, Davide, do I need to do it on my side?
So whilst we get the Slido set up, you can start thinking about what your questions might be. And I think we haven't got loads of time, so there's going to be an ability to vote, so we can vote for the questions that seem to be most popular. So whilst we're doing that and we're getting the tech working, I thought I'd invite each of the panelists to share a takeaway either from today or something you think is just really important for everyone to remember?
If you could take away anything, it's just be kind, have empathy, and lead with listening. That'd be my simple 3.
Easy to remember.
Mine would be to think of it in terms of difference, not deficit. We're all different. We've spoken about that. Even the 4 of us sat up here, we're all different. And so how can we make it safe to be different?
I think the one thing I would encourage everyone to take away is think about how you advocate for yourself, first and foremost, and how you champion your own needs with yourself, first and foremost. Because if you don't do that with yourself, then it's going to be really hard to get it from other people. And that's not to say that you can't. It takes community ultimately to, survive the world. So find your people, but make sure that you're also learning to build that muscle in your own mind and in your relationship with yourself for how you look out for your own needs and understand them in the first place.
Thank you.
I love that. I think my thing would be center diverse thinking, place significant value and like protection around different viewpoints and like in every part of your life, personal life and in teams.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. Right. We are all in. This is a group chat now. Let's go. I'm going to take it from the top. If you have the power to upvote questions, and I think we've probably got about 10 minutes or so. So we'll go for as long as we are able to do so. If you can, I'm sharing this information a little bit late, but if you want to target your question at one person in particular, just put their name in brackets at the end of the question, because I don't think we'll hear from all 4 people on all questions. Otherwise, we'll only cover one question. Right. So, 6 votes. Let's go. Have you experienced where your colleagues or leadership used it against you when you disclosed or advocated for yourself? That's a really important question. Would anyone like to take that one on?
Short answer, yes. And it sucked.
Yes, I think
Yes.
I think it can be really hard when you're faced with that. And so knowing how to, 1, set expectations for yourself of what you really want is important. And 2, there's ways to stress test the waters before you share something that you can't take back. And if you can find either a generic use case that would support a broad variety of people in your team without disclosing for them, that's great. But if you're in the position where, you've been vulnerable and not been met with the support that you need, I think it's really important to take stock of what are you actually trying to accomplish and figure out who else might be able to help you with that or can support you either in the company or in the industry, because it really sucks when that happens. And I know we have some former corporates.
But the reality is a lot of people leave because they don't find the support. And that's what we need to change. Anyone in this room who has the power to create more inclusive environments, this is what you're fighting against. People don't want to share because they don't feel safe. So
Can I add something? And this is a personal story, and I'm going to speak from the scar, not from the wound with this. But earlier in my career, I would get quite frustrated whenever I saw injustice in the workplace. And I would get quite upset and I would be crying at work. And my manager at the time, I remember having this conversation with her. And obviously this was before I was diagnosed autistic. And she would say to me, you need to work on your resilience. You need to be more resilient. And I was like, what the fuck? what am I meant to do with that? Like, I'm upset because there's a situation here at work and there's people behaving unfairly towards other people. You know, there's a systemic side of it as well, which I was always very sensitive to. And I think that can be one way that it manifests. Like, it doesn't have to be over discrimination or people saying things to you because of your diagnosis. Sometimes it can be just how you are and someone kind of responding to that in a negative way or in an unhelpful way. So that has really stuck with me. And I think when I became a leader, I always use that as an example of how not to be with people.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move us on to the next question, which is moving, which I don't like, which is, how can I start my journey of acceptance? It feels overwhelming and I'm struggling to come out. Who would like to tackle that one? You're not alone.
No, you're not alone.
I
would say it's a journey of understanding yourself first. I always said that when I got my diagnosis, it's like rewatching an old movie I've seen over and over again, but actually now understanding the plot. And I think you have to accept your own, come to terms with your diagnosis, come to terms with your neurodivergence before you can share it with everybody else. And again, it comes back to what you were saying, is about loving yourself. Once you can do that, then being open and honest, and it's the hardest thing you can do, but it only takes one person for you to share it with, and they're, you know, lovely and really accepting and, you know, really great about it, will give you the confidence to do it with more people. So I would say the first step is small steps. Do it with somebody you know you trust, somebody you know who's going to accept you, by having that conversation, and it will just build your confidence to do it more.
Brilliant. Would anyone like to build on that?
Yeah, as somebody who's come out a lot, hi. Yeah, pick a trusted person, pick somebody who will probably accept you, pick somebody in your personal life first, and stress test it in like a meaningful relationship with somebody who really understands you or is there and cares about you, rather than like your manager. And if you're at the point where you're like, no, I'm out about this in my personal life, but I feel like I'm masking really hard at work, then a trusted friend at work in like a peer relationship is usually a better way to go than like directly up or down, just to start, because it can be really, really helpful to just like start on a neutral playing field.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Okay, next question. How would you create a support system as a neurodivergent person to empower you to take on big new challenges, especially if you are the most senior product person? Anyone want to take that one?
I'll take that one, because it builds on that whole resilience piece. And the way that I look at resilience now is that it comes from the social groups that we belong to. And so it is really, really important to build your support network in lots of different places. So at work, at home, with friends, with family, with communities like we are here today. And there's a really active neurodivergent community with lots of people out there on the public stage talking about this. We've got Toni here, we've got people like Ellie Middleton, Leanne Maskell. Like, you can look them up on LinkedIn and follow them. You can follow them on Instagram. You can, you know, start to engage with other people. But I think it is, you know, having those different groups that we belong to is really important. It's the perspectives, it's the support. It's when one part of your life isn't going as well as it could be, you've got everybody else there to surround you and bring you up.
Can I add one thing specifically to the product leadership thing? I think everyone here who works as a product leader could probably attest to this. It's like very lonely job. Product leadership is a lonely job anyway, right? Like, you often feel kind of like you don't have anyone who gets it or like is supporting you. So if you're the most senior person in your organization, you're already maybe feeling undersupported and maybe not always understood. And if you're also neurodivergent, which hot take, my personal hot take is that majority of product leaders are actually neurodivergent. So not gonna diagnose everyone here in this audience, but so create, exactly as Caroline said, create networks outside of your organization that help you to feel safe and supported.
Can I just say that if you have got an employer resource group, they're the best places to go and connect with people as well. And one of the things that I implemented is actually reverse mentoring. So having junior staff actually mentor our senior staff around their, differences where, with their neurodivergence, and actually talk about their lived experience to educate a senior member of the team.
Love that.
Interesting. This is a nice one. Let's think about and talk about the young people. Is there any advice you have in relation to your personal career journeys that neurodivergent young people can benefit from to get into tech?
Use for the techies. I'm out this one.
I would just say, if you're really young, right, it's try to learn about yourself and your own needs and what you need to feel supported, because there aren't always scaffolding in place in tech organizations to support you. But just believing that you can. And as a career switcher, myself, I would just encourage people to just keep exploring and actually learning, because you can even switch and have a very, very squiggly line. And if you're neurodivergent, that's super normal and awesome. And it will make you better, for that transition and those changes that you go through.
I think that tech is one of those industries, professions that neurodivergent people kind of maybe naturally gravitate towards as well, because of the skills that are required. It plays to our strengths. So thinking in terms of systems, recognizing patterns, being great with data, being creative, all of these things, we have an abundance. So I always say, with young people is work on understanding what your strengths are and find the role where you can play to that. And I don't just say that for young people, I'll say it for all my clients as well when I coach. I think it's just great advice throughout your career is, and this is something early on in my career, I was evaluated on strengths and weaknesses. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do with my weaknesses? I could spend a whole lifetime working on them and they wouldn't get any better. Let's focus on strengths and lean into that and get the support for the things that we find more difficult and more challenging.
I want to build on that.
Yeah, please do.
The one thing that I think is really important, especially for young people trying to get into tech today, is understand the difference between technical skills and people skills very early on, and make sure that you're building both sets, because the technologies that we use today will change. And even now, Gen AI is changing the way that organizations write code, think about software development, think about product management. So be curious about the entire system and understand the real places that human thinking and human input makes a difference, especially in the age of generative AI.
Thank you so much. I think we'll go for one more question. And there it is at the top of the page. How do we tackle measuring success around accessibility?
Okay. So Kat Holmes used to be the global VP of accessibility at Microsoft, and they had and have a really great framework for it. It's very much accessibility focused, and it's a really good foundation document. Kat gave a talk called Design for One, Design for 6 Billion that has stuck with me for over a decade. It's a really good talk. But I think on top of that, when you're trying to think about setting goals for accessibility, again, market share or ease of use or time on task, or it kind of depends on the product that you're working in, right? Whether it's B2B, B2C, enterprise scale, personal use scale, it really depends. So I can't give you a universal answer, but some of those, especially if you're trying to grow your user base, or if you're trying to make it easier, you can tie it into that and use accessibility goals under that kind of like banner goal to improve the accessibility of your product, while also like tying that back to like core changes and foundations that are going to improve your product.
Can I just add one thing,
Yeah.
which is the accessibility, just generally, like as a topic, is about including people who are not normally included, right? So if you're practicing just like generally including people and needs that are on the edges of your core user base, then you're always going to be discovering new ways that you can improve the product, both from an accessibility standpoint, but just generally. And I gave a talk this summer actually about this, but like that as a PLG tactic, like inclusive innovation is like a very, very good idea for growth, because you will always hit, even if you're, you know, the best hockey stick in the world, from a PLG standpoint, you will always hit a point where you have saturated your core audience. And if you're not looking around on the edges, you will not find places to expand and actually grow your business.
What a fantastic thing to finish on. Inclusion. Oh, we've got a... No. No, we can't, but we can see that you want to talk to us, so please.
I was just going to say, and I'm using the mic so people who are online can hear me, there's so many questions that haven't been answered and we've run out of time. At the risk of extending goodwill of this incredible panel, would somebody or all of you take the time to just, if we capture those, and then what we can do is we can share your answers on our, I don't know what we call it, the website, our website, yes.
Has anyone come across such a thing?
A website.
Can I just, for accessibility reasons, is there anybody who doesn't like typing, would like to ask their question verbally?
Okay. Time is not our friend today, unfortunately. We have come to the end of this incredible session. I'd like to ask anyone who's been involved in organising this session to put their hands up, so everyone in the room can show their appreciation for what. Catherine, why are you just clapping and not? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Show your appreciation for the organisers. Show your appreciation for this wonderful panel. Show your appreciation to Salesforce for letting us into their rather lovely building. To the audience, both those of you online and those of you here today. I hope the online crew are clapping as well.
On butter, yes.
And yeah, thank you to everyone. It really has been inspirational. I've learned so much.
Thank you, Marissa, as well.
It's been my absolute pleasure. It really has been. Be kind to yourself. Remember, don't try and be a hero. Try and drive some meaningful change. And remember choice. Choice is how we cater for difference. I believe we have a couple of minutes left. Is that right?
It would be good if we could put the slides.
So what I thought we'd do, in the spirit of inclusion, instead of hearing my thoughts on what we've all learned today, I want you all to think about what's one thing you'll be taking away from today's session. And let's all, the hive mind, the power of all versus the power of one, share your thoughts, and we'll share the collective wisdom in the room. What's one thing you'll be taking away from today? Apart from signing up to join Female Product Lead if you haven't already done so, and to join Amplify if you haven't already done so. It's been quite a morning. I mean, look at these insights coming. People online can see this, right? Yeah, okay. Wow.
I love these.
Isn't it amazing? I'm not going to
So
read to you
great.
because reading's not my thing, but you can read for yourselves and enjoy. I can feel it in my stomach reading some of these things. It really is incredible. And for those of you who came here for some inspiration, I hope we will be making these things available as well, because if you ever need a little boost, just read these things and it will remind you of all the goodness there is in the world and how we all matter, we all have strength, we all have something to offer. So on that note, I think we can all get on with our day. I think, though, we want to tell you about some female product lead events. We want some feedback.
We just want some feedback mostly. So this is how this QR code, we're going to move this time. This QR code.
Just one more QR code for you people.
I know, so many.
You've become very adept at
This is how we measure
QR
our
codes.
impact. So we are a CIC and not-for-profit, and we actually report on this, and this is how we measure our ability to make the impact we want to make. So if you can please fill out. It's just very short, to take you 2 minutes. I've actually even shortened it for this event to try and make it more accessible, hopefully. Thank you so much for filling that out.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much. Thanks again to everyone who's been involved, to the panelists, to Salesforce. You are free to talk to each other, to leave, to do what you need to do. Thanks again.
Have some snacks. It's amazing.
Or to eat food.
Food.
Is it okay?